These underline something important. It's not always the major incidents that define professionalism, but the routine, everyday interactions where standards are either maintained or overlooked. When officers begin to dismiss basic obligations, shift responsibility, or treat clear rules as optional, that is often where public trust starts to weaken. Accountability isn't only measured in high-pressure situations. It is shown in whether procedures are followed consistently, even in seemingly minor encounters. That consistency is what truly reflects integrity. I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this. Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you find these breakdowns valuable, feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more.
There's nothing down here saying it's a restricted area.
What do you want?
I was taking some pictures and stuff. I'm making a little video of the area. Local force. That sort of stuff.
Purpose?
Pardon?
For what purpose?
Of public interest.
To go where?
Pardon?
To go where?
Well, for public.
You're quite clearly filming us at the moment.
Yes, yeah. I film any interaction. Have you two police officers, are you?
Yes.
Have you got your warrant cards with you there, since you're not in uniform? Pardon?
I've got to walk out of a police building, aren't I? So
Yeah, but you're obviously doing a stop and account with me, so I'd like... Well, you are. You're asking what I'm doing, which is, by definition, a stop and account. You're asking what I'm doing in an area. That's a stop and account. So if you're engaging in a policing activity, I'd like to know your warrant card, otherwise I'm just going to disengage from you and carry on with my business.
Okay.
All right then. All right, refusal to identify. So I'm just going to get your picture so I can report you to your chief constable. Cool.
This incident represents a clear breach of the College of Policing's Code of Ethics. The rules are straightforward. When officers interact with members of the public while on duty, they must clearly provide their name and collar number. This is not optional, nor is it a mere courtesy. It is a fundamental requirement built on the principles of transparency, accountability, and public trust. Without proper identification, the public is left unable to know who they are dealing with, or to hold any officer accountable if something goes wrong.
Here's just cause issues, or you just have to
No, I'm just here to take pictures and that's all. As I said, I've just noticed as I was walking down to take pictures, your colleague's window was open, I could see the screen, made them aware of it.
Okay, have they sorted that?
Yeah, they closed the window, fine. Yeah, it's so simple as that.
Cool. Okay, I'm sure we're not here to cause you a problem. I'm sure you're not here to cause a problem. We're just,
You know, your colleagues not in uniform refuse to identify while engaging in a policing activity. Not fantastic, is it? It's against policy. You are required to identify. You're engaging in a stop and account. You are required to identify. Because if I have any complaints, how am I supposed to make that complaint if you haven't kept yourself to the accountability standards that the force requires? So, you know, again, you refuse to identify properly because, again, you don't know that I can read, so you're refusing to identify properly. Yes, you're in uniform, but again, if I want to make a complaint against you...
You can give the time and date and where the location where you are. My body cam's recording, so
oh, is it?
It can all be... How
come it's taken you this long to let me know that your body cam's recording?
I'm talking.
And is the policy not to, at the first, most practical opportunity to allow that?
That was the most practical time to inform you.
Was it? So, because you come in and gone hands-on with me?
I haven't gone hands-on.
Exactly, so why is not the first thing that you say, good afternoon or morning?
What you're doing, because that's the first question I asked you, and then we've had a conversation, and now I've told you.
But the first most practical opportunity is to say, good, by the way, you are being recorded.
Okay.
Otherwise, you could be covertly recording me under the Regulations of Investigatory Powers Act.
When asked to identify himself, the officer claimed that simply pointing to his collar number was sufficient and that nothing further was required. However, this approach creates a clear issue. If the number is too small, obscured, or not visible from the other person's position, then the gesture becomes meaningless. In such situations, the public is left without proper identification. Officers are expected to clearly state their identity out loud. Verbal identification is not a formality. It is a key part of transparency, reassurance, and accountability. It ensures the public knows exactly who they are dealing with and gives them the ability to question or follow up on the interaction if necessary. Without it, the chain of accountability is weakened.
But that's not happening, so don't worry about that.
It could, because it took you X amount of time to alert me when there was plenty. The only situation where it's not practicable at the first opportunity is if you're going into a hands-on situation. Any other time, there is no reason, and this has been dealt with in the tribunal by the tribunal that deals with the REAPER Act, that the first most practical opportunity is when you approach somebody. If you have your camera on or you turn it on, if you approach with your camera on, you should alert them when you approach, unless you're going hands-on. If you turn it on whilst engaging in a conversation, you should turn it on, and then once it's recording, so it's stated on the camera, by the way, you are being recorded for my safety and your safety, blah, blah, blah. You have the right to do it, same way that I have the right to do it. It's not a problem. It's the notification that's the problem.
Okay.
You know?
I've notified you at a time that I think is practical, so I've done that, so it's fine.
Okay, you can justify that to a tribunal. It's fine, no worries.
So what are you
so you're going to try to identify yourself properly yet?
No, I'm happy.
You're happy, yeah?
Yeah.
Would you like to identify yourself, or would you like a complaint as well, sir?
So can I ask you a question? Before my colleague steps in, just can I? So my name is PC2376.
Thank you. So that's how it's done. Thank you.
My colleague there was obviously made aware that the window was open.
Yeah.
And he's got concerns because of data protection and that you might have recorded something on your phone from the screens.
If there is anything, I'm not sure if there is or not. If anything is captured on there, that will be evidence for me to report that to the Information Commissioner's office, because obviously the onus of data protection is on the organisation, not on whoever sees that information.
You don't expect someone to stick their head through the window.
I didn't stick my head through it.
When the officer finally admitted he was recording, he justified the delay by saying there hadn't been a suitable moment to mention it earlier. However, the situation tells a different story. The interaction was calm and controlled throughout. There was no urgency, no conflict, and no external pressure that would have prevented a simple disclosure. At any point, he could have clearly stated, "I am recording." The issue was not timing, it was approach. Failing to make that disclosure in a direct and transparent manner raises concerns about adherence to procedure and public accountability, creating the impression that clear rules can be treated as optional when they are in.
I saw it from a
sure
public
because
place.
somebody else's information, this is a secure site. Well,
I understand that.
it's not as secure as we'd like.
Well, no,
it to
exactly.
be.
It's not secure at all, is it? Really?
No. We are trying to work on that, but unfortunately, you have to do with what you've got to that.
Yeah. Even a bit of signage saying no unauthorised access beyond this point would go a long way, because I do respect signs like that.
No,
you know.
okay. I will take
but I did have a look around, and there is nothing there.
I will genuinely take that to the senior leadership team, because
Fantastic.
I think that is fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are trying to redo everything. Yeah,
Okay.
Financially, we have to wait until the
That's
budget.
right, it's quite a
and
small
everything,
town,
and
isn't it? Lower priority. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
We get shoved right to the bottom type of thing. We're right on the borders, between different forces and that. So it is totally. I understand where you're coming from, and I'll pass it on to the senior leadership.
Thank
team.
you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I've just got concerns about the data protection that's on that video. Do you know what I mean? Because that's somebody else's private stuff and that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we obviously learn from things like that. So you've pointed it out. They've closed the window. It is really hot in there. We've got no air conditioning.
Again, I completely understand that, but obviously data protection takes priority over that, unfortunately. You can get a fan in there, and I understand, I've worked in many various locations where health and safety data protection takes priority over that.
Does that go live? Is that a live?
I'm not live streaming, no.
If there is something, would you delete that?
Not necessarily delete it, but I would make it anonymous. I would blur it out if there is anything, if I were to post it anywhere.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
It's not their fault, you know what I mean?
No, of course. I've raised the issue I've raised the issue of data protection, and obviously I raise it as an issue because I do see it as an issue. I'm not going to go share that information. That would be very hypocritical of me, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
So if there is anything captured on the camera, it won't be made available to the public. It will be forwarded to the ICO.
That's fine. Yeah. Can I take your details?
No, I'm okay.
Can I take your name?
No, I'm alright.
Just first name, so I know who I'm speaking to.
No, I'm alright. Thank you.
So you've got my collar number, but I can't take yours.
Yeah, but as a Crown servant, obviously you have issues of accountability when dealing with members of the public, and that's why. Yeah, I know.
Your first name.
I know.
I don't even know
I know. But then obviously
that
that coupled with my image, which obviously he's notified me
At this stage, another officer attempted to shift responsibility onto the auditor, suggesting that he should not have leaned through the window or recorded visible information. However, the legal position is clear. Under the Data Protection Act, responsibility for protecting sensitive information lies with the organization that controls it, not with a member of the public who may inadvertently see it. If confidential material is left exposed and visible, it constitutes a data security failure. The issue is not the recording itself. Ultimately, the responsibility rests with the organization for not ensuring that sensitive data was properly secured.
And we have to rely on
Yes, but you have a collar number for the specific reason, as we've just heard us discuss, for accountability reasons. You're making a very large assumption that I have the ability to read that my eyesight is good enough to read that.
These two officers are identified, and if you do need my details, they can be.
Okay, that's still again, that's not your policy, okay, so that's fine. I'll make a complaint to your chief constable. That's not a problem. Actually, I'll probably go straight through the IOPC because otherwise it goes to your local PSD and gets kicked down and disregarded.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, no worries. Just get a nice picture of your face as well, so I can just make sure that goes to the right person.
Yeah, no problem.
Is there anything else I can help you with today, sir?
No. I said, obviously, I've made the issue of that window, and I've made that aware.
Which I'm literally going to go speak to.
Interestingly, the other officers on scene had no issue identifying themselves. When asked, they provided their names and caller numbers promptly and professionally, without hesitation. However, this particular officer, given the same opportunity, responded differently. Rather than demonstrating transparency, he persisted in his approach. Instead of reinforcing accountability, his response appeared dismissive, as though the same standards did not apply equally. Behavior like this, where personal attitude takes priority over professional responsibility, can gradually erode public confidence in policing and weaken the trust that these standards are designed to protect.